Ready. We're going to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're coming out of recess. Stacy, will you read the roll call, please?
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite,
Melly Garthwaite, Council at Large, present.
Councilman Brian Locks,
Brian Locks, Council at Large, present.
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan is absent. Councilwoman Ruby Melton,
Ruby Melton, Councilwoman, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali,
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali, 3rd District, present.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, 4th District, present.
Councilman Edward McMillan is on his way but currently absent. Councilwoman Dawn Callahan,
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker is absent. Councilman Christopher Vargo,
Councilman Christopher Vargo, 8th District, present.
Councilwoman Katie Muller,
Councilwoman Katie Muller, 9th District, present.
Councilman Stephen Johnstone,
Councilman Stephen Johnstone, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Nicholas Pascal is absent.
Thank you, Stacy. First up tonight, we have our Grants Department, and Mayor Borer will be presenting. Mayor Borer?
We were in court all day today. So I thought I would come and talk about grants because Olivia isn't here, and then we'll let the other departments go. But the other reason is because grants is, something that I do, that I like to do, that we have the experience from the state in. So I wanted to explain the change in personnel. But before I do that, I thought it'd be nice to just run through the grants we have because it tells you a pretty good picture of what we're doing in the grants department. And this is without the grants director. So the grants director has been vacant since I started, and it's one of those positions that because of the salary, we've interviewed people and they have chosen not to come because of the salary level. But here are the grants that we're working on. As you saw, the $152,000 in the boat ramp improvements for the engineering design, $600,000 for the boardwalk improvement, $1.2 million for the Savin Rock. We're calling it the Savin Rock project, and that is, the Kelsey, the boardwalk, the gazebo improvements. $850,000 for shoreline resilience, $2 million for the pump stations on Dawson and East Avenue, $880,000 for the public safety upgrades, which includes our PD phones, animal control upgrade, our traffic calming, our solar speed radars. $1.7 million that we received to upgrade Malloy to a community center, $250,000 community investment fund for downtown planning, $1.8 million community investment fund for upgrading the neighborhoods around the VA, $30,000 in a Department of Justice grant for desktops for our police officers, $2,000 from the Regional Water Authority for fire department equipment, $5,000 for our senior center for a grant for computers, $256,000 that we had gotten for the recycle grant to buy those totes, $10,000 for bike safety. Those are in 2 increments of $5,000. In process right now is $1 million in our brownfield remediation, and that includes our library, $75,000 for our senior center, for HVAC system, which will transfer over to the new community center, $1.7 million in lot SIP sidewalk improvements, and $250,000 in designing traffic signals. I think that's a pretty impressive list for 15 months of work that we're working on grants. My point of reading that to you is not to say how wonderful the grants are. It's to say that we've eliminated this grants position to make opportunities and funding available for the other positions. But you will also see that there's an increase for our grants writer. So when you eliminate the top position, there's always going to be some responsibilities that are picked up by the person in the department. And so that justifies that increase. If we don't do that in the budget, the union's just going to challenge it anyway to say you took away one position, and there's going to be naturally some increase in responsibility. So that explains why that increase is there, because I know there was a question about increases. So wanted to start off with that, and this falls within planning and development personnel in the budget, but the grants department reports to me. Now, without the grants director, will consist of a grants writer and the assistance grants writer. So there'll be 2 people in this department.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mayor Bohr. Does anyone have any questions for Mayor Bohr? Councilwoman Melton?
Having sort of been without anyone writing grants or directing grants for a long time, this is really fantastic, and I think you have a very good grants writer, to be honest. And here's my question is, what is the how do grants, who does the research for the grants? Who because they're all over the place, right? So how does that evolve and get to the grants department?
So it's a combination. So I do have the information as to what agencies are offering grants, either federal or state, and try to determine how that would align with our needs. So let's say we're looking for security upgrades. We know that that's DESP, Department of Emergency Services. We know that they offer grants this particular time of year because it's cyclical, right? There's open periods, application periods. And then I'll work with Olivia and say, Olivia, DESP has a application process. They offer grants for this, this, and this. I think we could apply for this need in the city. And then a grants writer really has the specialty, right, to put in those buzzwords and the language and gather the data, because you always have to have supporting analytics when you're submitting a grant. So
is that coming out of the mayor's office, basically, or from other offices, like?
You mean the ideas for the grants?
Yeah. Or the sources for the grants?
I just know the sources for the grants.
Because a grants director would normally, I guess
Right.
what I'm getting at is you've eliminated that role.
Yes.
And that's what a grants director would do.
Right.
and
That's
work with
exactly my
different-
point.
And work with other departments. And so how has that been sort of absorbed, and who has absorbed it? You.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was, it's a good question, and that's
Yeah.
why I read off those grants, because
Right.
absent a grant director, we have still been very successful in identifying what grants would be good for the city. And then Olivia does a good job, and her assistant grants writer, Vanessa, does a good job of then applying for them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for Mayor Bohr? Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Mayor, where is it? What will the grants consultant do? That's under Grants Administration 5621. You have a $10,000 allowance. I'm just curious what the grants consultant will be in charge of.
So there's a grant consultant that's available through SCROG, and we get our weight in gold through that. We would pay about $10,000. We'd probably get about $80,000 worth of work, and it's that expertise that sometimes we don't have. So I may know where to go for the grants. Living may know how to write it, but you need, when it comes to brownfields, right? We're not experts in asbestos or different categories. So very often we use consultant work to kind of augment that knowledge and that experience to help us write the grants.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Vargo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
What is the going rate for a grants director these days?
Well, it's not 90,000. A lot of these positions pay well over 100,000. When we interview, we're actually starting to tell people the salary up front, before we even bring people in, because we know that's a bit of a deterrent. I'm interviewing somebody Friday on Good Friday, and we talk to personnel and we say, make sure he knows what the salary is before I even meet with him, because very often we have those interviews and then we tell the salary. So grants writer probably be like around 125, 130, and we're at 90.
Do you have a sense of? We're obviously doing fantastic with what you're contributing and what Olivia's doing, so I don't want to imply that that's not the case. But do you think that? What's the metric? Do you think that if we hire a grants director, could we boost up either efficiency and apply for grants faster, or we would have access to grants that perhaps you're not familiar with, or what's the value add if we get somebody in that position?
I think right now we could absorb it.
Okay.
I do. Of course, it would always be nice to have another set of hands that's doing that work.
Right.
But
we have to offset that $120-something thousand.
Right, and given we have other positions that we need that $90,000 for some other increases that we see. So when you have to make those decisions, what can we absorb? Ideally, of course, we would want that extra person, because that's one thing less I have to do, and then I could be a little bit more on the street. But it's working okay. So I think for this budget year,
You're comfortable with it?
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Stacy, I just wanted to make mention that Councilwoman Tucker is present. You're welcome. Councilwoman Callahan?
Thank you. Hello, Mayor. Can you explain to me the difference? The grants administration is like the Olivia's on the bottom when it comes to wages. Is that what's under? I'm just trying to understand the two different categories, and because.
So under planning and development administration, that's all those. Can you hear me? That's all the wages. So that's community planning, grants, and building, because they all fall under the planning and development area.
Okay.
So so you see this. I don't know if you have the page in front of you. See that? So that's all three of these areas fall under planning and development.
Okay. All right, that explains it.
Yeah.
And then like Olivia's is like hers would be under the grants administration.
She's so if you look on that page, I don't know if you have the same thing, 44. In the middle of the page, you have grants director, eliminated at 90. Grants coordinator, that's an old position that hasn't been filled for a while. Grants writer, that's Olivia, 76, and then that 4,000 is to help absorb some of those admin responsibilities, and probably looking for a title change as well there, which we will be able to do. And then grants accountant is Gisela. Where's my assistant grants writer? Where am I? Oh, okay. That's the assistant grants writer. I'm sorry. Grants. It was moved to finance. That's why. So Olivia is grants writer.
Okay. And then the one that's vacant, the grant coordinator.
So that was 2 years ago. That was changed from a grants coordinator to a grants director. We actually we made that move last year to try to get a grants director. We eliminated the grants coordinator and bumped it up to grants director.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions for Mayor Borer? Councilman Locks?
Thanks for putting that together. That summary, that's great. Is it something you can publish for us so that we have it?
Yeah, I could give you a copy.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll
Thanks
send it to you
for that.
electron-
It's great
yeah.
information.
It is, because grants writers, again, they're worth their weight in gold, and they're revenue producers.
Yeah, sure.
So sometimes folks balk at increasing, but they're the ones who bring the money in.
Yeah.
So it's very much worth it. And sometimes we don't talk about like a $10,000 grant, or the $85,000 grant, but everything adds up, and they're important to those areas. Getting computers for our seniors, I don't know that we would have had that in the budget. So being able to identify where to get a grant for that, and upgrade and bring us into the 20th century.
Yeah. I mean, it's great messaging. It's great messaging for our constituents who ask us about this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's good to rattle it
Yep.
off to them.
Yep.
So.
I thought it would be
Thanks for
helpful
that.
to list them out. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mayor Borer? Everyone all set? Thank you, Mayor Bohr. I really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. You're in good hands.
Okay, up next we have our building department, Lloyd Adams. You can come up to the podium. Thank you. You just have to turn your mic on. Thank you.
There it is. I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lloyd Adams, building official, City of West Haven. How are you this evening? That's good. So, if you'd like to, we can start with the revenue. We'll go to page 8. All set? So if we go down to the lower side where it says licenses and permits, that's where we come in for building permits. We are requesting $1,100 and the mayor is recommending $1,300. That's good. For electrical permits, 550,000. Mayor's recommending $375. Excavation permits, 10 and 10. And plumbing and heating permits, $370 and down to $100. So the totals for the building department would be, our request would be for $2,030,000, 2030. The mayor's recommended is $1,785,000, and these are just speculations. We don't know who's going to come through the door. We have an idea of jobs that we have coming in, but whether everything comes to fruition, we kind of use an average over what we've done over the past 3 years and look at what we have for projects coming in, and that's what we use. So from July 1, 24 to today, April 15th, we have a total revenue of $1,828,352. In there, though, however, we have archiving fees, we have certificate of occupancy fees, and those increase this up, and those are not in the proposed down here. So our building permits right now are at $917,000. Electrical permits are at $402,000, well, $403,000. Our plumbing permits are at $236,000. So, and we have 2.5 months to go. So, I'm sorry.
Well, you're taking, what you're doing is doing the permits only, correct? In that.
That's what's in here, building, electrical, excavation, and plumbing. And I'm taking the total revenue. What you have is from February, I think, if you look at that.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd, do you have something that's printed out? Maybe I can make copies and, is it a printout? Of,
Mhm.
oh. Oh.
Page 8. The numbers that I read come off of our
1.3. Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
Right, and that adds up.
Gotcha.
I apologize.
Councilman
Did I
Locke
say
has a, or
1300?
I'm sorry, Councilman Vargo has a quick question.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Hi, Lloyd.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. On page 8 for the electrical permits,
Mhm.
there's about $150,000 difference between what you asked for, which was higher, and what the mayor's recommendation was. I'm just curious if you had any sense of where the two of you are not seeing eye to eye on that number?
As I said, the mayor's being a little conservative. I'm looking at electrical permits, and I'm using a number based on electrical permits include solar, and solar is constantly creeping up. So that's why I put in what I put in. The sense is she's being conservative for the revenues, but we do what we do. And as I said in the beginning of this, we don't have anything to go on other than our previous activities and what we project is coming up. So it's not a solid number.
Right. In your projections, you're including the projects that are very public that we know are in the works, the conference center. So all those are baked into these.
Yeah, to the
projections?
best
Okay.
of my ability.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sure.
Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
The difference between the mayor's and my projections is only $245,000. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things. It's a lot of money. Don't misinterpret anything. And I live here. I'm a citizen. So I'm concerned.
Thank you very much. Are you all set with your presentation? Can we start
On the
asking questions?
revenue.
Under revenue? Okay, yeah, you can keep going.
Okay, thank you. So page 44, we have salaries. We have, these are contractual. So we have the building official, one of them, that's myself. We have 96,106. The assistant building official, there's 4 of them. One is vacant right now and has been vacant for the entire year. But the total there is 311,828. We have a property maintenance building inspector that's been vacant the entire year, but we have one starting on Monday, on the 21st, to fill that position, which is good for the department. And that's one person at 72,159. That's a starting. And we have our secretary, which is 64,119. Excuse me. And we have a part-time person that I use for large projects to do plan review and stuff of that nature. I put in 55,000 based on that person being here the whole year. The mayor is anticipating that he won't be here, or she, and let's hope not. That person will go away when we fill the assistant building official spot. So, but that's why that's in there, and that's why I put that number in. Any questions on the salaries?
Any questions for Lloyd?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So we can go on our expenses on page 46. We have regular wages as 544,212. We have the part-time wages, which is we just discussed, the 55, and the mayor recommending 20. We have an overtime of $8,500, which our overtime is created from ERS calls and workload, which is unpredictable. We don't know from day to day who's going to walk through the door, what projects are going to come in. So that's where that comes up to. So we have printing, 4,500. The mayor put that down to 2,000. I put in what I thought it would be for the year, and she's hoping it'll be less. Let's see how that goes. But we have to, if you look back previously, you won't see any money for printing, but we used to do that all in-house, and now we have to send it out. So we have a printer in New Haven that we use. That's for our receipts, our inspection forms, our permit placards for building, electrical, plumbing, heating, solar, all that stuff. We have to send that out to be done. Conventions and dues, we use that for membership in various organizations, National Fire Protection, International Code Council, and associated conventions. I put in for 6,000. She gets it down to 3, so she cut that in half, and that's fine. We can work with that. We'll see how it goes. We use the convention and dues, like I say, to for our training and education. The different agencies put on seminars and stuff like that, so that's what it is. Dues are to the organizations that I was speaking of. Archiving expenses, we're trying to limit that to as much as we can, but it's still there. I put 7,300 based on I have an ongoing bill of $600.63 a month, so that's why I put that down. She ran that down. So we have engineering services, $900. That's something that doesn't get used regularly, but on occasion we need to hire the building official needs to hire an engineer to verify something that he's making a call, because they don't allow us to make calls as engineers. So we have to hire engineers. See how that goes. Office equipment repairs. That can go away, I guess. I'd really like to have it there, because we have cabinets that need to be repaired, safes that we call office equipment. The locks break, stuff of that nature. That's why I have that there. Demolitions of buildings, we use that for fencing off, boarding up, stuff of that nature during fires or break-ins and stuff of that nature. So that's 9,000 going across. Clothing and uniforms, we have shirts and jackets on order to make us look like a professional group of people. We all try to look as professional as we can, but it's going to have building department logo, city logo, and it's going to have our names on it. More easily for the people to identify us out there. So, and the other office equipment, $500, pretty standard across the board. So, any questions?
Any questions? Councilman Johnstone?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, Lloyd,
Yep.
real quick, talk about the archiving services. So, like when the city clerk came before us, they have their expenses, they make these books, they go into the vault. Excuse me. Can you just walk us through real quick your process of archiving in the building department? Because I'm sure it's a lot different than what people think, and I would like to be educated on this as well.
That's fine. So, as it stands right now, we have a lot of paper. A lot of paper. State librarian states that everything that's commercial, we need to maintain for the life of the building. Everything that's 1 and 2 family residential, we need to maintain for 2 years. So, back before, we sent product to a place called Iron Mountain. So every year we would send boxes, typically 10 to 12 boxes a year from the building department. We would send that's all of our permits and documents without the rolled up plans. But these would just be that. We would send that to them. And then the rolled up plans we would put in a larger box and send them off to them. And they're all documented for us to keep. So that's how our archiving goes. However, we are moving on to try to get rid of the paper. Boyd is a big fan of, I don't want your paper. Okay, give me it on a disc. I have a big screen TV. That's big enough for me, that I can look at your plans on and do the review. So that's where we're moving, and we have a thing called Fast Track Gov, which is an extension of what we're using already to track our permits and everything else, called Mitchell Humphrey. construction project manager, and we're going to be able to upload drawings onto that program. It's going to be up in the cloud. We can access it at any time, day or night. So if somebody needs archives, which we get requests, I get requests probably 15 a week. They want to know, are there any open permits or what permits are closed and so on and so forth. So I do it electronically. Then they say, well, I want to see those permits. So now I got to get them from wherever we have them. And we have them logged pretty well, so we can get most of them. But the whole goal is to just get rid of the paper. We've got to do that. But in the meantime, we can't destroy what we have without getting it digitized. Once we get it digitized, then we can do that. But this archiving amount that's in here is just strictly for what's there now.
Okay.
That we are storing. We have some of our stuff stored in this building as we speak. So.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you,
You're
Madam
welcome.
Chair.
You're welcome. Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hi.
How you doing, Lloyd?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Hey, why are we sending out for the printing? Why are we sending it out to New Haven? Is there something wrong with our printer? I mean,
We don't have a printing thing anymore. We had it when Pancho was here. Do you remember Pancho?
yeah, actually, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Pancho was here. He used to do it. When Pancho retired, the machines that were in there were very outdated and dilapidated. It was very complicated for him to do it, but it was his job. And when he left, some of the part-time people tried to stay up with it, but it just wasn't working. So we send it out to a place called Ideal Printing. That's who I use right now. They gave us the best price, and they're fastest to respond. So that's who we
The printers, the printing, I know some printers can't do it. We have no printers in-house that can handle what you need, right? Because
definitely not.
you have the bigger,
We have 2-part forms. We have 3-part forms. We have receipts. We have orange cards that have our permits on them. We have white cards for the electrical, plumbing, and heating. We have green cards for solar. And all of those get printed. And
have we priced out a printer?
well,
Have you?
I haven't. No,
Oh, okay.
no, I wouldn't do that.
All right.
I'm.
Yeah, I just questioned, not.
Yeah, it's a good
questioning
question.
you guys
It's a good question.
and
It was
just,
good when we had it in house. We had a gentleman that did it.
Is it possible to, just to get a price somehow? and
Anything is possible.
Get it to us, before we,
I believe you need several machines to do printing, and then you have to have supplies, and then you have to pay someone to do that. And do you want to?
Yeah, that's it. It's not just the equipment. It's multiple pieces of equipment, and then we have to
okay.
pay someone to do it too. So
all right, so it is
And
cheaper
what-
doing it this way then.
And what
Okay.
Pancho was working on
Yeah.
was 1960 stuff that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
breaking. And,
No, I think I could
He's
hear it. I
standing
think
there.
I heard the machine from my house when
You
it
could have. He's
started.
standing there with a stamp going, 1001, 1002,
I got it.
1003.
All right, understand. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Rick, for, all set.
All set? Councilwoman Melton?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Well, thanks.
That's good to hear.
Can we go back to revenues on page 8?
Sure.
And I'd like to understand a little bit more about your tranche of this page is under licenses and permits, building permits through zoning permits. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
There's 4 lines.
Well, building, electrical, excavation, plumbing, heating, and zoning?
I don't do zoning.
Oh, you don't do the zoning?
No,
Okay.
the zoning
All right.
department is
Okay.
next.
Sorry
Yes,
about
sir.
that.
Mhm.
I can keep saying I'm the newbie here, right? So these permits, they cover residential and commercial, correct?
They cover all
All-
aspects of
all
what
permitting.
of what permits are.
And can you, I mean, I know we have some large projects coming
Mhm.
up, and, you know, I have no idea as to what we charge for permits and how those,
Sure.
how they are set, and I'd
Okay.
like to know a little bit more about
Sure. We have a
that.
permit fee schedule that's approved by the council.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we charge, simplify it, we charge $25 per thousand based on the value of the jobs. So if it's a $10,000 job, it's $250. There are certificate fees that get added onto that, which is another $25. And that's pretty much the simple part of it.
And that, and so then it escalates depending on the
Well, sure, if it's a $100,000 job,
$100,000 job, it's $25.
it's going to be $2,500, sure.
Whatever.
hmm
Okay.
Everything goes up. We have $1 million jobs,
Okay.
which they pay the fees for, and that's all posted out for the public. It's on our website
Okay.
to see how it is, and we have other fees in there that we don't get too involved in, but they are all part of what we do. If we have to go out, we have a fee per hour for the building official, how much to go out and do something if it's not permitted. So we try to cover our expenses, and we do. We cover our expenses, and we're right up with all the municipalities around us. It's about how they charge them. Yep.
Okay. And when was the last time the fees were set?
2024.
Oh, okay.
2024.
So we do it every year, is that it? No? Oh, okay, I'm looking to the council now.
Okay,
For
yeah.
information that
Yeah.
I didn't have.
2024, they
Point
were
of information, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
We increased some permit fees last year at the recommendation of the mayor, and then we also were not charging for sewer connectivity on new projects. So we passed an ordinance last year to start charging for that as well. So that's what was the 2024 changes.
Okay, great, thank
Thank
you.
you, Madam Chair.
And
Thank you, Councilman.
that's at WPCA, the sewer connectivity. That
All
goes
right,
to them.
thank you, appreciate
Sure.
it.
Councilman Locks.
Hey, Lloyd, how are you?
Good, Brian. All right.
Thanks for coming in. Good, great. Is FastGov fully implemented and are you using it today?
We're going live Monday.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, but
Oh,
we're
great.
doing it internally.
Yep.
So, and the people in the office are called the back office. So we've been working. Matter of fact, I had a training session today. My colleagues will be doing it tomorrow and Thursday as well. The people from Fast Track Gov are coming here on Monday, and we're going to start going live in the back office. So that means that it's not out there for the public yet. We want to let the people keep coming in, and we're going to take the information that we have on our applications now, and we're going to transfer it on to Fast Track Gov and try to keep track of it in there. And they're sending people up to help us do that. But yeah, we're going live Monday. I'm excited.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, and my
Yep.
colleagues are too. They're looking forward to it. It's gonna change some things, but we still have people that don't use computers. We have a lot of people that come in. You know, that we've got to help them through it. So we'll just take that and we'll do it what we call in the back office. That's us. You know, my secretaries and building officials. We got to review everything and see there, but it should be a lot faster process for everybody. They won't have to be calling us about when is my permit ready and so on and so forth. It'll be all out there for them to view once we go full live out to the public. We anticipate that might take one additional month. So we need to work in the back office to make sure everybody's got a handle on it. It's a really good program, and it's extensive, and we're going into other parts of the city. It's going to zoning, it's going to public works upstairs. And
Oh, that's great. That's
so
great
on,
to
and
hear.
We're all going to be melded together in time, but we're the first department going through it.
It's refreshing to hear it because usually when people hear software implementation,
Yeah,
they retire.
yeah.
So
That's
it's
what-
refreshing that you're excited that you want to
what
get out of the
happened
whole
back in,
paper business.
Back in 2003 when we implemented Mitchell Humphrey,
Yeah.
construction project manager.
Yep.
That's the version we're using now, and we've been using it and updating it and so on and so forth. But when that first came to play, I started here in 2001, and when I found out that we had that, I said we need to be using this, and
Yep.
nobody wanted to use it.
Okay.
They said, "Oh, we don't know how to do that." Well, you have to learn. So and
Is
we
it
did.
FastGov or OpenGov?
Fast Track Gov?
Fast Track
It's not
Gov.
open.
Okay, great.
It's
Thanks.
called FTG, and it's
Yep.
by Mitchell Humphrey.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's great news.
Councilman Tucker?
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi. The question I have is about demolition of buildings. Do you oversee the demolition of buildings, or you just permit?
This is for the building official. If he's at a fire and that building has to come down because it's in imminent danger of collapse, I can order it down, and I have some money to do that. I also use this for boarding up buildings. We had a fire right over here across from the bank, and that building just needed to be boarded up. So I take money from there, use it to board up the building because there's no owner. We have absentee owners. We don't know that. But we need to make it safe, and we lien the property.
Okay, so this is really about just making the property safe enough for the demolition.
Could be. I'll use that for fencing.
Okay.
I could put a fence around, have a fence put around the property as well.
Okay.
So, but we do oversee demolition, but this is for us, in case in the middle of the night, I gotta call a contractor to take that down. I have it in my budget to pay him to do it.
Okay.
And then we lien the property and we eventually get it back, but we gotta have the money to work with.
All right, thank you. And then when homeowners have work done on their properties, the building inspectors go out, I guess.
We do if they get permits.
Okay.
And if they don't, then we go out and try to find out why they don't have permits and stop the job or whatever we need to do that's legally allowed.
Okay, so in the case that they did follow the law and get a
Yeah,
permit.
they followed the law and got the permit. Yes, we go out and inspect during the rough phases, during the finished phase. Depends on the type of job that it is.
Okay, and there's a charge for that to the public, or?
No, the charge is already in the permit fee.
Okay.
We don't charge them separately to go out and inspect. They pay a fee to the building department, and that covers the inspections and so on and so forth.
Okay, and that fee is paid up front.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And that's at the end as well sometimes. Most of the bigger jobs we have reconciled. We have them tell us what the job actually costs, and if they owe us more money, they have to pay us the difference. So we do that as well.
Okay, so in the case of someone being issued a permit, work being done, it sounds as though there's a closed loop piece.
There is. It has
of
to
the
be
work.
closed.
Right.
So when they go to sell the house, all the attorneys want to know, are there any open building permits? That's what I get a lot of weeks. So we look them up, we say yes or we say no.
Right.
And if they're open, that means we didn't inspect them. They didn't call us to inspect them.
And I guess the question that I have is, is there a time limit on?
Permits expire in 6 months if they don't work on them. But if your permit is active, if you're working on it, and you have one of us go out and do an inspection, then the permit can last as long as it takes to do the job.
Beyond 6 months?
Beyond 6 months, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lloyd, I just had a question for you.
Sure.
For office equipment repairs,
Mhm.
is there anything detrimental in your office that needs repairing right away in order for your department to function?
The time clock.
Okay, and about how much would that be, do you think?
Haven't been able to get a hold of the guy yet.
Okay, and
But I'm weighing whether I just buy a new one.
okay,
The
and
one
in
I
rea-
have there is ancient.
Okay.
Mhm.
In reality, do you think $900 would cover your repairs in your office?
Probably. I don't understand the question. Do I think that $900?
Yes.
I believe we had, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're asking for 500? I'm sorry. 500. I was a line above.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to repair something that's old. I'm going to replace it.
Okay. I just wanted to.
But some stuff, like as I explained, we have safes in there that have things on them. Sometimes
Right.
Charms has to come out and do work on it. We have push button locks that if they fail, they got to come out and do something.
Right.
So that's our office repair.
Okay.
And I think we could do it with the 5. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Councilman Garthwaite?
Hi, Lloyd.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thanks. I have a couple of questions. I want to go back to Councilwoman Tucker's set of questions. I'm just curious about the demo of the buildings line.
Sure.
Do you always use all of that line item?
I don't use all of it, not always, but it needs to be there because we don't know when this is going to happen.
Okay. And typically, do you use most of it, or you think you use most of it?
I probably use 3/4 of it.
3/4
most
of it.
the
Okay.
time.
Okay. And then the other question I have is going back to your revenues.
Sure.
I don't remember hearing anyone ask this question. Under plumbing and heating permits, you have your department request is 370. Mayor's is 100,000, and it doesn't show a percentage decrease. I'm just wondering why is there such a big discrepancy, like a $270,000 difference there?
Well, I don't know that. She's being conservative. Right now we have 236,640 to date.
Oh, okay. To date.
To
Okay.
date, I'm sorry. Yeah. So this year, but it's a the thing. Plumbing is low. The electrical permits are high because of not only electrical, that solar's involved in that.
Right.
And the solar companies pay a lot of money for permits. These jobs are $40,000-$50,000 each,
Okay.
and we get 8 or 9 of them, 10 of them a week.
Okay. All right.
So
My last question is I actually got my first call for an illegal apartment. Is that something your department?
we have a new gentleman starting Monday.
Uh-huh.
He's our property maintenance building inspector, and we will send him on that.
Oh, good.
But I would call it unapproved. I don't know if it's illegal yet till we get
Okay.
there.
Potentially.
But we would send that. But in the meantime, myself or staff goes out to them as well as our zoning department does.
Zoning too. Okay.
Zoning
All right.
and building.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Looking forward to the new guy starting on Monday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Councilman Vargo?
Thank you. Sounds like you have a busy Monday.
I do.
Got a lot of stuff. On the revenue, quickly, I apologize if you said this right, but if you did, I missed it. Have you compared what we charge for permit fees with, either regionally close municipalities or
You
municipalities?
did
of our
miss
size?
it. I said, yeah, we're pretty
We're pretty.
equal with the surrounding
Okay.
communities. We did that before we did the increase in 2024. We actually
I think
called
that's
the
why we
different
did.
communities. We called some cities that are similar to us. That's what we got to be using, and we're pretty close.
Great. Going to the expenses, your overtime line.
Sure.
I did some rough math, and you're about you're almost $14,000. The request of $8,500 is about $14,000 below your 3-year average, and it's about $9,500 below your projected expense for 2025. How are you going to absorb that?
We have salaries that we're not paying.
Okay.
We have property maintenance guy, building inspector, 70,000 using round numbers, not here all year. We have an assistant building official, $75,000, not here all year. So we've got 150,000 right there.
And if you hire for those positions, do you anticipate that the need for overtime reduces?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We got to hire for those positions. That we're looking forward to.
Okay. On your archiving, I understand that that's an actual cost right now.
Right now, that
it
is,
is what
yeah.
it is. Is there an anticipation that you're going to be able to reduce that in the next fiscal year?
I don't see that. But
Okay.
We can
So the archive.
talk about it.
So the digitization, which I'm going to be asking IT about when they come, that's for current. Is that for current stuff? That's stuff that's in the building.
It's stuff that's in building that they're working on a program that we're digitizing. We already have a few years out and back. That's why I have safes in my office. They have the digitized stuff in there.
So do you anticipate that the priority is going to be whatever's in City Hall and not off-site.
I'm not off-siting anything.
Okay.
You can count on that.
Okay.
I'm just opposed to it. We can do stuff to eliminate that.
Okay. The structural engineer, how was that paid before? This looks like a new line item.
Mhm.
How was that paid before?
Take it out of something and move it from here to there if we had to. But
Do you?
as I say, it's a minor expense that sometimes needs to be done. If I make a call, I have one right now. I won't say where it is, where I'm challenging the owner and company for the way that they installed something, and I don't approve of it.
So
I'm not a guy with a stamp that can say that's not approved. So I asked them for their engineer to say that's an approved thing, and I have a call out to one of our people to look at it.
It's a third-party engineering company
Yes.
that you use.
Yes,
So
nobody in house.
I know that they are not inexpensive. So do you have, since it's a new line item, we don't have any historical data. Do you know how much on average you spend a year?
I don't spend anything right now because I haven't had anything.
So this
But
is
we
the first
have
time
to-
you've needed it.
Well, this is my first time being here. Last year I was here with the budget that someone else did, but the engineering services is $900.
Right.
These people got to be getting $1.25 an hour.
So you're comfortable. I guess my point is that you're comfortable at 900
I am right now.
is needed. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilman. Any other questions? Councilwoman Callahan?
Thank you. Good evening. I just had a question about the conventions and the dues. So what you're asking and what the mayor is proposing is half.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that's enough, though? I know that you said she's being very conservative, but I find that that is a very important thing to have, to always be up to speed with the education and the knowledge. And is 3,000 compared to 6? You think sufficient?
Well, 3,000 will probably pay for the dues, but we won't be attending many conventions. So,
okay,
you know, that's my guess. But I put stuff in there I was hoping for, and the mayor's being conservative, and I get that.
right. But
I
I do understand about you know.
Thank you.
Constantly with the knowledge. I think it's very
Thank
important.
you. Yeah,
So,
we're required to have 90 hours of continuing ed every 3 years. That's a
I understand
requirement
that
just to
very
maintain
well.
my license.
I do understand that very well. So, and I know what the prices, you know, and they're constantly going up for that as well. So,
Yeah.
all right, that's something we'll take a look at. Thank you very
Thank you. I
much.
appreciate that.
Any other questions for Lloyd? Councilman Locks?
Hey, just to build on that structural engineering consultant thing, the hourly rates are outrageous for a structural engineer. You know, they can run up to like $300 an hour, or $10 a square foot.
Yeah.
Is there a long-term strategy to put one on staff here? No,
No, we wouldn't need one.
you wouldn't need one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
We
just
could-
curious.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't need one on
Yeah.
staff. A lot of people in this industry, they don't challenge the building official.
Okay.
If that's what you want, we'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, but there are some that are just who they are.
Yeah, sure.
And they want to challenge. They have their own engineer, so show me that works. Have your engineer give that to me in writing. And we just don't want that engineer to be Mr. Stamps a lot.
Sure. I like that. I know him.
You know him.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Any other questions for Lloyd? Thank you, Lloyd. I really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My honor to be here.
We appreciate that. Up next, we have Planning and Development, Steve Fontana and Kathy Conniff.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. We have some new people.
My first time up here, obviously, you saw me last night, but let me just say for the record again, I'm Steve Fontana. I'm the Director of Economic Development.
And I'm Catherine Conniff. I'm the Assistant Planner for the City of West Haven here.
We could probably talk about a lot. We just want to say up front, first off, thank you for all of the support and collaboration that you have shown us over the past year. I actually will be here 11 months next week, so I can't claim to be a full year, but I think we've had a very successful year overall thus far. We have obviously 2 more months to go, but we obviously enjoy working with all of you, and we enjoy working together. And I think that's the great story, I think, for tonight is how much we accomplish with the resources that you give us. So we'd like to thank you, for all the support you've shown us. And again, we'll go through the budget and answer any questions you have about anything, but wanted just to say up front that we're pleased to be with you and talk about our request. So, do you want to?
Where do you want us to start?
Okay. You want to start with this?
Sure.
Okay. So we're starting with, we have one comment to make on the planning and development personnel detail, which I don't know the page number. 44. Okay.
44.
All right. So obviously you've already heard from the mayor with regards to the grants department. You've heard from Lloyd with regard to the building. With regard to our department up top, you'll see the positions, some are which are vacant, one of which we want to just point out is being adjusted by the mayor in keeping with the policy she described earlier with regard to grant administration. The assistant planner has accepted additional responsibilities and duties over time and is doing a singularly excellent job, if I may say so. And so this is an effort to reflect those duties and to basically recognize expertise and excellence. So that's the increase there you see in the net change of $4,180. With regard to the non-personnel items, again, I don't have the page number for you.
Next
Thank
page,
you.
44 to 45. We have the overtime. We really don't do a lot of overtime, but I could foresee overtime. In our contract, we get comp time. Anything over 35 to 40 hours, it's comp time. So there's really no cash. It's just time. But if we go over the 3 hours, we do. It becomes 4.5 hours, and we get compensation after that for overtime. I could see some coming up just because we have several plans that we're going to talk about. We have our plan of conservation and development, which we have to do charrettes where there'd be a lot of community development. We are looking at reviewing all of our zoning regulations. And what else? You have.
Yeah, those are the two.
Those are the
biggies.
two that
we're going to get to that.
We would
in a
be
minute,
having
but
these, community meetings for people to come in and talk about.
yeah,
So those
downtown
may be,
MDP as well.
yeah. So that may be something that would generate, myself and my zoning officer, who also is very active with, all the development that we are moving forward with. Our print maps, I think that was on the next one. Just keep me on that, Steve,
Yep,
okay?
yep.
We do some, for instance, we needed some maps for the Seven Rock Festival. They were kind of pricey to do. We also need zoning maps, which are large. They're really kind of expensive when you start doing them. Like sometimes it's $400 to get like 2 maps, the size that we need. So $1,000, I think, was what we put in there. And then our advertisement, that is the New Haven Register. All this, I think we've kept this same budget for the last 3 or 4 years. It's very pricey to put our public hearings in. We also have decisions that we have to put in afterwards, and very expensive. Very close. We use most of it. I think we were at 33 in February, I think that was. And we asked for 55. And that's February. Now we still have to the end of June. And what's next? Conventions and dues. Same with us. We all have to, take some classes, FEMA classes that we take. And, we have to go off-site to take them. DEP has a lot of conventions, our Casio conventions, that my zoning officer, and we have a gentleman that helps us out who is going to start taking the Casio classes, which runs about $600 for the whole the whole circuit of them.
Right, and just beyond that, another example is about every other month, somebody in our group wants to attend one of these events, which is really a very valuable effort to network and learn. So last fall, for instance, Olivia Basanti and I went to the CCM convention. That cost us a certain amount of money to register. There's a real estate showcase coming up that the Chamber of Commerce is doing. That could cost $75 to $85. So those are some of the costs that we have to pay, but it's an expense well worth bearing. Beyond that, there are a couple of citywide events that the mayor would like to program. So, for example, last June we did the Small Business Forum at the high school. I mentioned last night that we're going to be doing the Economic Development Summit next month, actually in Harriet North. Essentially, that's for two expenses, primarily the food, which is usually for breakfast, but it runs about $10 a person, so that could end up costing you $1,000. And then with just some of the printing or the advertising. So we're budgeting two citywide events, and then, as Kathy indicated, some additional amount of money for these networking and educational opportunities.
And then we have the economic development consultant, correct?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
That's our tricky one.
Yeah, so one of the things, right, you'll notice is that Mayor zeroed out the economic development consultant line item. That actually plays into something I mentioned last night with regard to North End Field. To characterize sites that we need to look at possibly conveying or disposing, I mentioned we have to do four things typically: title search, survey, appraisal, and environmental site assessments. By far, the most expensive item on that list are environmental site assessments. Phase ones can run you anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, and phase twos can be $15,000 to $20,000. So, looking at what we might be looking to do this coming year, we were budgeting that amount of money, but after the budget went in, I spoke with Olivia Basanti, our grants writer, and she reminded me that she had actually secured several years ago $400,000 of EPA money to do site assessments. So the single largest expense is gone because she's got unallocated funds there. So there's no need for a $100,000 line item for economic development consultants if she's going to cover or can cover for me the single biggest expense with some of these properties. So that's why that's a zeroed out.
And then archiving services.
Right.
We have basically the same thing that building department talked about. We have to keep all our variances. You can never throw them away. So they do send a lot. We haven't sent them out in a real long time, but we're getting paper cups because we keep putting stuff in. And I think some other things are being taken out of that too, for like maybe the mayor has some stuff that needs to be archived, or it kind of comes all out of, or someone does, because we don't use it all the time, but it's going to be needed really soon, because like I said, we can't get our hands inside of our public hearing secretary. We have a public hearing secretary that comes to all of our meetings. She does planning and zoning, which meets twice a month. She comes to the zoning board of appeals, inland wetlands, and she does our harbor minutes also. So she's at $125. She's been here for 24 years, I think now. The same woman that's been doing it, and she does an amazing job. She tried to quit, and I wouldn't let her. So we did raise it from 100 to 125, but she does, she'll take our recording sometimes, do my minutes for me, write the decisions, send it back. So she's worth it. $75,000.
Other professional services, right? So the $75,000 for other professional services is to cover or address a couple of things that Kathy mentioned earlier. First off, the plan of conservation and development. This has to be done by state statute every 10 years. If you don't do it, you jeopardize all of your opportunities for those discretionary funding opportunities that the mayor was mentioning that Olivia pursues on our behalf. the process is lengthy enough that it can take over 1 calendar year. And so what we wanted to do is get started now, because it has to be done by June 22nd of 2027. And you might say, well, that's over 2 years from now, Steve. Yeah, but if it ends up taking 15 months, it could end up overlapping multiple years. And so rather than take a risk that consultants might not be available or they might go up in price, because right now we think it's a very good time for consultants, the bulk of that $75,000 would go toward paying for the plan of conservation development, which won't probably wrap up until the early part of fiscal 27, but nevertheless, we can cover with the bulk of those funds. Besides that, it's the other thing is...
Plus, we were late last time, and it's a very cumbersome for the mayor. You have to write a letter, and that letter goes to OPM, it goes to the Commission of Transportation, Environmental Protection, Economic and Community Development, and it gets attached to any type of funding we're looking for, so they know that we have not done it yet. So this 10 years is very important, plus the 15 months we talk about them getting it together, printing it, it's got to come before you. But it has to be approved, and that could take up to 6 months. We're hoping it's quicker than that, but it could take up to 6 months having to go through the whole process.
The balance of the funds would then be used from that line item to help pay for the zoning code revisions that we'd like to do. So one of the things that Kathy and I talked about when I got started was how can we drive economic growth in West Haven, and so some of the things the mayor was talking about earlier are feeding that. Obviously, getting the state grant to do the downtown municipal development plan is part of that. Obviously, the plan of conservation development is a big part of that. But another part of it that we live with on a daily basis is our zoning code. And the zoning code is actually 19 years old. Now, it has been patched, if you will, over time, but it isn't as effective, we believe, and as up to date and consistent with our other ordinances as we'd like it to be.
It's not economically friendly.
Yeah.
Really, they're asking too much for people when you're trying to build something, and you're telling them most properties, we all live around here, your beach has maybe 30, 40 feet frontage, and our regulations make you come every time if you want to put a deck on. Everybody wants a deck in their house. We all know that. And they have to, because it's so strict. There's no property. But
it's forcing them to get variances.
Right.
And variances are time consuming, expensive, and discourage people from wanting to pursue development in the city. So there are just a bunch of inconsistencies we've come across. One of the other ones is was it the lot size or the unit size?
The unit size.
Things that just don't make sense.
Our properties aren't big here. So even if you wanted, a lot of families, what we always hear come in, they can't put an addition on their house because they need a variance, right? But they can't move either because prices are so high right now that they just want to add on to, keep their family here in West Haven. And we don't need to put that burden on them. They probably still have to come for a variance, but it's not like, it seems so drastic when they do
we want to streamline the process, and that's sort of what about us, like trying to just, much in the same way as our public works colleagues eventually stop patching roads, and they say, no, we're going to tear up the whole thing, and then we're going to put down a nice new layer of asphalt. Similar strategy is we want to be consistent with the zoning code and make sure it's aligned with the plan of conservation development, downtown MDP, and other things to really drive and streamline growth.
And I think property maintenance is the last. That's going to start getting crazy now. I know we didn't use too much last year, but here comes the grass is growing. Someone's not taking care of their property. And a lot of times we try to clean and lean the property, so we do get some money back from that. We send somebody out, especially if it's a bank owned, not that we have a ton of those anymore because the prices, everybody's buying houses. The banks, they'll mow the front lawn, but they forget the back lawn. And I don't know who the property maintenance is they use, But then we go in and we clean the property the rest of the way and lien the property, so when they go to sell it, the banks are required to pay it because they just want to get rid of the property. So, but we all, you know, and we also used it to protect Third Avenue Extension last year. There was people parking on the FEMA lots that we can't touch, and people were just parking on it because they looked at it like it was a big parking lot. But we put some fencing up there, and now nobody parks out there. So that was a good get. And like I said, here comes spring, summer, and everything, you know, to do with property maintenance will help us out with that.
So thank you. I think that's a quick run through of our budget. If you have any questions, happy to entertain them. And again, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Councilman Virgo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve, Kathy, good evening. Thanks for coming.
Good evening.
Where are the liens for the property cleanup? Where are those captured in the budget? Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you know roughly what we generate annually, or what the average is?
Well, it takes time for a house to sell, and then we capture it. But when we do, we collect all the interest that was, you know, if it costs me $400 to lien the property, sometimes we make $1,000.
Right. It accrues 18% interest.
Yeah, it's 18% a year, and sometimes it takes 2 years and a couple of cleanings. So we do make the money back. And
I see a lot of your requested increases was for the plan of conservation.
It was.
So I see that a lot of those numbers have been adjusted. What does that do for your timeline?
Well, we're working.
Well, thankfully.
Thankfully we've been.
Kathy and I sharpened our pencils.
Yes.
And
so we're able to really come up with the money. I don't know if we could buy anything else, but we're going to be using. I mean, Steve, you did all the nice work for that. But
what we did was we put it out to bid, and we decided to take the second lowest bid, provisionally speaking, which are the people who did it in 2017. So we felt they were the gold standard in terms of quality. What we thought we would do is we would get started this fiscal year, because Kathy's got some funds left in various other accounts. And so if we get started this year, between that, the money in the 75,000 other professional services line item, and then a small amount probably in fiscal 27. So thankfully, like I said, we don't want to take any chances with this. So like I said, if we can move forward, we hope to get started on that in about a month.
Absolutely.
So even with the adjustments to the line items between what your department requested, what the mayor's recommending, there's other funding sources that you could tap into, and you're gonna be close.
We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it work.
Okay.
We've you know, even with when we thought about this when we looked at our bids that we did receive from the reg change and the plan of conservation and development, and he started thinking, and I saw the wheel spinning, and he was like, what if we start, and I'm like, I've got some money left over, let's start it, and then we could finish it, and if there's something that we're lacking, we could throw in for our, you know, the next budget.
Yeah, and we budgeted conservatively. I mean, just to give you an example, Kathy and I put out an RFP recently. We got 2 bids back. One was triple the other one. So needless to say, we didn't take the high one. We took the low one, because not only do we believe that's the better bid, but also it's going to save us a lot of money.
And just want to speak quickly about the positions. How many vacancies does your department have?
I don't think we have.
Well, we have the commissioner.
Commissioner of Planning and Development.
Right.
And I could say I am the assistant planner, so we don't have a planner.
So you're the one that he was speaking so highly of.
Yes.
Oh, that would
Counselor,
be.
yes. I think that's the only vacancy we currently have.
Right. We have other openings, like in our union, but they're not.
Right.
So the project manager is filled, I think, right?
Yes, that's
Kathleen.
That's Kathleen Krolak.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Hello, hello.
Hello, Mally.
I just have a couple of quick questions for you both. Line item 400 property management. Do you think we could reduce that at all? Is that, you think we could?
I think that was our secret plan to help us out if we needed it for the plan of conservation and.
Okay, did I miss that? Did you already say that?
No, I did not say that, but it was like if we needed it, we were,
Okay.
we were gonna have to maybe move into that, because it is, it is a huge part. We need to do this plan first of
Right.
all, and
I understand.
we were really trying to make it. We worked. We have Steve did a whole spreadsheet that we have, and to make it work. And if we need that, then so I would like to say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then line item 52,425, archiving services. Any way we can reduce that one at all? Because that one is always, I look back and it always seems to be sort of like half. That's your extra money for your conservation of plan.
I could.
No.
No, it's not.
No, to be honest, Counselor, no, that's not. So,
Okay.
I had to make him say one no.
I think it's fair to say we can look at that, certainly.
We could, yeah.
And maybe get back to the council about
Okay.
that,
We'd be
to
more
how
than
it
happy
looks
to.
Okay.
for this year.
Okay, and I just want to say I appreciate everything you do. You really do deserve a raise, and you work really hard. And you always answer all my questions, and I know I'm a pain in the neck sometimes, but you're always there. So thank you for everything.
That's what we're there for. We
Yeah.
work for
Yeah.
you and the citizens. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm all set. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilwoman. Any other questions? Councilman Locks?
I just want to say you two seem to complement each other very well.
well, it seems like we
We
just
make a
met.
good team.
11 months ago. So
Yeah.
I mean, and it seems like we've been working together for a long time.
No, but thanks for all you do, and obviously, happy 1 year anniversary.
Well, thank you.
It's
all.
coming up.
Counselor.
Thank
So,
you for like
thanks for all
funding
you've
the
done.
economic developer last year.
No, and let me just say, too, the nice part is so much of the work that we do, along with Lloyd, whom you heard from, is going into that revenue line item that you were describing. In other words, that's sort of what I personally take pride in, is trying to drive work to Kathy and to Lloyd. So I always go in all the time saying, am I bringing you work? Am I bringing you work? And Kathy and I today met with the development team about a project. So, we feel optimistic at this point that the pipeline in West Haven is filling up, and that our goal, obviously, is to exceed whatever estimates you put in for revenue with regard to permits and fees. And that's sort of the challenge that I sort of take on, is to think about how we can continue to keep that going. But that's where.
And right now, it seems like we really are. There's a lot of development still to come, and it's exciting. And we've heard from a lot of people. I always say, until it sits on my desk, do I feel that it's here? Because that's when you get an approval for it.
Right.
And then they have to finance it. But that's the other part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Councilman Fargo?
Thank you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to a little bit. I appreciate the mayor trying to keep the budget as low as possible for the taxpayers. I certainly do, but I also recognize how critical the POCD is, and what I don't want to see happen is us putting your department in a position, putting the mayor's office in a position, putting this council in a position that we're rushing, and we may miss that deadline, or we may not have the quality product that we need. Because I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is absolutely required for us to get a lot of other funding. So I don't want to not spend a couple of extra dollars now and potentially give up a lot more later. So based on what you have asked for, compared to what the mayor's recommending, how comfortable? You don't have to give me specifics, but how comfortable are you? Are we going to make it, and is it not going to make Mr. Fontana lose any more hair?
I think we're comfortable.
I think we're comfortable.
We're comfortable.
I'm telling you, we
we sharpened
looked
our
at
pencils.
it.
We really
looked
did.
at it. We went through it. We're like, well, if we do this over here and use this, we can start paying them to start, because then we already have like bids, and like the plan of conservation, one was I forget 100 and almost 50. One was 140. The 102 is the person that we ended up picking, and then we had like an 84. But you know, so we did do our homework there, and we all, you know, we talked to them. They came in, they asked questions, and same with the regulations.
Are there any internal costs? That's for an outside consultant and you know, whoever else, the other professionals. But do we have any in-house expenses that we're gonna need to cover?
Very minimal. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Kathy mentioned the possibility of some amount of overtime.
Okay.
But I will say to you that was one of the requirements we had in the RFP was we did not want the consultant throwing back onto Kathy and Steve in particular expectations that they would be doing
Right.
their work. So I
Yeah.
said, no. They're going to do it all. You guys, we're going to help, but we're not
Yeah.
going to be hitting the overtime item or otherwise diverting from other work.
Okay.
So
Because the two things I want to make sure of is, number one, we're not going to miss the deadline and get an inferior product because of what we're doing. And number two, what I'd hate to see is for you all to come before the council next fiscal year and say, hey, we need a lot more money because we didn't front load it like we were hoping to. So I'd like to avoid those two problems.
Right now, I think we're comfortable.
Okay.
I really do.
I think we're going to be in a good place if we can start both of those, the POCD and the zoning update, this fiscal year. And that will allow us to get the zoning thing done during fiscal 26.
Okay.
And then the bulk of the POCD will be paid for and done in fiscal 26. And then it'll wrap up in the fall, which is 6, 8, 9 months ahead of the deadline.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we've tried to build in a buffer, because as Kathy said, the process for approval is lengthy because it requires coming to you, the P&Z, to the public. So we've built in enough cushion, I think.
Yeah. And I don't want to put it back on the mayor that we have to ask for an extension. It was like I just started as the zoning officer in 2015, and it was like due, and we hired a new planner, and it was just like before we could get it was 17, you know, because we had to do everything to get there. So we already took the lead by let's put the RFP out, get the applicants in, and I think also that might help us expedite this is going with the same people because, you know, they're familiar with the city. I mean, we did a lot of traveling with them the last time, and the same gentleman is actually still working there. So.
I always find that we usually save money when we're proactive, so I'm very appreciative that's what I'm hearing. So I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with this strategy, and that's all I have. Thank you.
We'll make it.
Yes, we are.
You're welcome, Councilwoman Callahan.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you? Again, thank you for all that you do. Two things I was curious about, and I know that you went over it and explained it, but with the, we talked about it with the last category we had with conventions and dues. In your particular instance, though, it's more than doubled. Is that because you foresee more conventions to go to and things that will cost money, or can we drop that a little, or?
Well, again, the increase, I believe,
Yeah.
is $3,000, and that reflects two things. Again, 2 citywide events of our own,
Mm-hmm.
each of which will cost roughly $1,000.
Right.
And then these assorted dues, attendance fees, conferences, conventions, which, depending upon how involved they are, range from, I would say, $75 to $85 on the
Right.
low end
Right.
to like $200 on the high end.
Yeah.
So I sort of averaged them out to about
Yeah.
150, 160. And since I mentioned they happen like bi-monthly,
Mhm.
I did the math. I said, well, 6 times 160 is roughly
Right.
1,000.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's what that reflects. You know, we would like to budget for 2 events. Like I said, we did one
Absolutely.
last year, and we're doing this one this year. I
Right.
think the mayor would like to, again, do 2 next year. So we'd like to leave that in there if we could.
That
Right.
was kind of an amazing event too, just to let you know.
Right, and
I
everything's-
don't know if
everything's
everybody
going
went,
up.
but that was
Yeah.
to do business.
Everything's
Totally
going up
impressed.
for sure.
So that's why it's a high percentage. It's not a large dollar number, but it is a high percentage.
Okay, so it's not necessarily educational seminars. It's more of just like marketing and getting the stuff together that we need.
Yeah, that would be some of it. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question is, and I know with advertising, it's crazy,
It's crazy.
but this is like a $20,000 jump. Are we
From what we
being
used last year.
Yeah, is this being conservative, or is this just what we think is we're gonna need in the till?
Well, remember, this is from February.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have March, April, May, June, 4 more months to
Okay.
use. When I said I have 5 meetings, I have 2 for P&Z, 1 for Harbor, 1 for ZBA, and 1 for inland wetlands.
I think what I would say, Counselor, is to the extent that in February we are roughly 2/3 of the way through the year,
Okay.
and 33 is roughly 2/3 of 50.
Fair.
I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it'll end up around $50,000
It will.
for the year, especially since some papers keep increasing their fees every year.
Right,
so.
and we have to put everything in the paper.
You have
so-
to put it in the
Okay, no, that
newspaper.
explains it.
Sometimes
Perfect.
we have to
Right.
put it in the Voice, you know.
Right.
We usually, I
Right.
should say, we make the person who's doing it put it in there.
Right, right. Okay, thank you. Thanks
Thank
very much.
you.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Melton?
Hello.
Hello.
Is there anything on the revenue side that is within your purview? I'm just looking, I'm still getting my arms around who's responsible for what, but, for example, building code violations, blight liens, whose area is that? Is that non-resident landlord registration, zoning permits? Does that come within your purview or someone
The
else's?
zoning permits do, yes.
The zoning permits,
Yeah.
right?
Those are what we have our public hearing on it, for the 4 commissions.
Okay, and that, you have
They
that
give
in here
us-
for 100,000. So it was, you asked for 64,000, and the mayor recommended 100 on zoning permits, right?
Well, obviously, that's an example I was describing earlier of
Right.
setting achievable goals and
Yeah.
working toward that. Like I
Right.
said, that's if things go the way we hope they
We
do
hope. I
this
hope-
coming
yes, I hope
fiscal
we get
year.
that.
Yeah, I
But
just-
obviously, it's a function of how many people we bring in the door, how many developments we bring in.
I mean, you're looking at all these projects that are coming.
We are.
Coming.
And
to
if some of
fruition.
them do, happen, there's money to be had, especially with the building department. All their fees that come
And
along with building.
Those other items I mentioned aren't in your area.
Well, just the zoning, I did
Just
say
the
that was
zoning,
us,
right.
Because we do collect fees for each application.
Okay. Well, you want to up it to another 100,000 or?
We're kind of comparable to everyone else, I mean.
It's like the high jump counselor.
Right,
I think I have an idea about where I can get to, but beyond a certain point, I think I'm going to have to grow a few inches. if I
Thank
wanna-
you. I'm just trying to figure out where some of these sit. Thank you.
Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Just one more little question. This is something I've been having put like to the back burner because I've been so busy with the budget. I have 5 reports of vehicles that have out-of-state
Out-of-state
plates.
plates?
Yeah, sorry, I can't even form my word there. And I'm not sure who to report it to because my list has been building, and is that you guys?
I'm just going to speak that I did work in the tax office when I first started here, so the tax assessor, the mayor has already brought that to her attention in an email I did receive also, and it is important, but I always say there's a lot of people from UNH that live around here, and then we put them on the tax roll, we don't get the money, but it's something we should look at, though. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but like trucks, they know that some trucks.
I'd recommend the tax collector would be a
Tax
good place to
collector.
start.
Assessor.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm getting a little birdie telling me
Oh,
tax
okay.
collector, so I just.
Tax collector?
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you go. It's both.
It's not me.
It's
So,
both
yeah.
tax collector and assessor.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not you guys, not
Not us.
zoning.
Nope.
Okay, all right.
Assessors make the bills, the tax collector collects.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you both very much for your presentation.
Thank
We
you
really
very much.
appreciate it. And we appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Parks and Recreation, Mark Payne.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
I'm John Carano, Commissioner of Human Resources, and you all know Mark Payne. Human Resources, for anybody new, is not personnel. Human Resources in the charter is community services. So Parks and Rec, elderly services, youth and family services, Human Resources themselves, which are energy assistance and things like that, as well as the advertising and that whole crew, and the health department. And now CDA, the Community Development Agency, roll up through Human Resources. On Tuesday, you're going to get the presentation for all those other departments. This is a bit, there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to Park and Rec. I've been here for 2.5 months, so Mark was the best one to present at this point, so we're going to let him go through it. How are you? Good, thank you. So I sent a copy of my budget request along with worksheets for every line item to everyone. So I'm not sure, what I can do is do a general overview and open up to whatever questions you have, or I have it with me too, so we can go over this as much or as little as you like. So as far as our full-time roster goes, there's been no increases in manpower. There are 2 people who are receiving contractual step raises. The lion's share of the increases in our budget are... Just so everybody knows, we're on page 92. So again, as far as full-time goes, no additional personnel. There were 2 people who were receiving contractual step raises. And then going down the list, if you break our budget down, it's 33% full-time salaries and it's 55% part-time salaries. So the majority of the line items in here and the majority of the increase in the budget request is for part-time salaries, because the minimum wage went up yet again this year. We had like 6 years where it went up $1, and now there's a cost of living increase each year. So we're currently paying $16.35 an hour to 15 and 16-year-old kids as they start. And because we really require staff retention, we need to keep the college kids around. So we need to have sort of a staggered pay scale. Like something for camp, for instance, you come in and I'm paying you $16.35 an hour, you're a counselor in training. They are directly supervised by a counselor who tends to be a college kid, who I need to pay about $1 more, or they simply won't come back. And then we have staff who worked as counselors, get certified to teach, get a degree in recreation, and stay with us for a while. And I have to pay them a bit more. I have to say that the more highly trained and credentialed you are and the more important you are to me, the less, unfortunately, I pay you, because I simply can't pay the really experienced people what they're worth, and I'm paying a slew of young kids $16.35 and up an hour at this point. It is what it is, and look, they're all good kids, and I always felt that the best part of our budget being substantially part-time is what we do is all about people, and the people who work with us work in the community and engage with the community, and they earn money in the community, and they take that tax dollar right back into the local economy. So there's yield on what we do on multiple levels, especially as it goes to our part-time and seasonal employees. We could never cover the things that we accomplish with them. We would never get it done without them, from summer maintenance staff to everybody else. There were a couple of increases that were, I guess in the 20% range. Special activity supplies under aquatics, I had asked for more money. That goes directly towards the training of lifeguards, their certification, and the majority of their equipment. The price of tea in China has kind of gone up on everything, but there is a true shortage of lifeguards all over the state, and we actively recruit and constantly hold classes whenever we have enough candidates to do so, and we no longer charge them for the class, for the certs, or for the materials, because we simply can't afford to. We would have no staff otherwise. So that was a line item that went up a bit. But, you know, in summary, again, it was like our full-time wages, 414,000, part-time wages, 678,000. Our equipment and supplies for the entire department for the year is $25,000, about 18,500 in safety supplies. There's 36,200 that is applied directly to the youth athletic leagues in West Haven. $20,000 added this year. Concerts is coming back under the recreation budget. Maintenance, 14,000. That's inside and outside the building. We have the Tall Oaks building, and we also have our field house. And we do go through a lot of soap and paper in the summer, especially with the kids in camp all day. Picnics on the weekends and such. Fees and charges is basically lumped in things from our CRPA conference, the licensing fee we have to pay to play music publicly, to anything like bus trips where tickets we might buy for an event where we're running a trip or something to that effect. So again, when you look at what we do and how we do it with people, with a lot of other very limited resources. The budget's big, but it's gotten big 6 or 7 years in a row now simply because of the minimum wage increase at the state of Connecticut level. And I've asked for a little more money each year for things like equipment and supplies, but I'm really hard-pressed to go for any kind of big asks, and I'm not going to because we're getting it done with what we have. I like my staff to be on their toes and squeeze every last dime out of the budget. And again, when we need to, there's been a lot of increase. The increase is going to people primarily in the community as a part of the local economy, and it's improving people's quality of life in the city of West Haven while we do that. So, should I continue, or would you just? Are there any?
Continue. Absolutely.
And so, if you go down in the budget to day camp, for instance, you'll see there's just a couple of line items. But the temporary payroll is everyone from it's a camp director, it's an assistant director, it's a junior CIT program trainer, it is a nurse, it is a special needs coordinator, it is a couple of arts and crafts coordinator, a special events coordinator, and then in addition to that, a counselor for each camp group and an AM and a PM CIT. So the camp roster itself is very, very large. They're buying, again, all of their goods out of that small equipment and supply line item that is shared with the playgrounds and every other program that we run. Transportation contract is busing. Basically, we also use that line item. We share that with the playground programs so that we can bus the kids from the sites to and from the pool. If they're not at Painter Park or Kerrigan, they're not at walking distance to the pool, and all the kids need to be in the pool. We try to get them in a couple of times a week. And then Bennett Rink, $25,000. That is simply us buying ice time for West Haven Youth Hockey. It's been in there since the inception of the rink. It's become more and more important every year, and I really wonder where that league would be without the contribution we make to them. I played, John played, we have a strong history and tradition of hockey at one of the nicest municipal facilities in the state. And it's one of those things I'd like to see us hang on to. And also, you have to have a rink to give kids that opportunity. There's a lot of things we could do with the field spaces in terms of offering kids opportunity, but we live on the coast in Connecticut. We're not skating outside in the winter anymore. So if kids are going to still continue, and it's a life skill. I used to go to public skating with my grandparents who were in their 70s. That's just one of those things that, you know, you can do for an awful long time with a varied group of people in a lot of different, but generally down here inside a rink where you're paying a couple $100 an hour for ice time. I did nip back on the swimming pool staff as well. We just can't staff the pool as much as we'd like to. We do staff the pool full time. We're offering the full complement of programs. But when I have swim lessons and an Olympic-sized swimming pool, I could do 3 or 4 sets of lessons at a time if I had enough staff. And we've kind of been hoping, and you know, we try to recruit, and we've been hoping to find more and more candidates. But the fact of the matter is, we've only been able to find enough guards and instructors to do like 2 classes per time slot. And it was maybe the 3rd year in a row. And I just didn't want to leave, you know, that revenue hanging out there like that. I just don't think it's a good thing for me to have a line item at the end of the year that has a lot of money in it year after year that I can't really explain. You know, when we have a rainy summer and there's a lot of money in the beach lifeguards line item, for instance, you kind of get that. But when it's a facility like a pool that we have 7 days a week, it's a little different story. Is that good? Can I open it up for questions? Or I don't want to talk too much.
I appreciate that. Mark, for your pool staff, about how many employees do you have right now?
I'd rather say in the summer. We probably have a 45 to 50. We're covering multiple beaches and then also the Carrigan pool during the day, 2 public swims a week, and the high school pool for the day camp for the AM swim, PM swim, public swims, and swim lessons.
Okay.
So, in the summer, we could have a couple hundred people on our payroll.
Okay.
It's very, very active.
That's good. Absolutely. Any other questions for Mark? Councilman Callahan?
Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I think you know what I'm going to ask. As far as the rink goes,
Yeah.
Where does the payroll come out of for the Learn to Skate program?
So
Do you still have that?
We don't. The high
you
school,
don't?
the Board of Education took the program
Okay.
a few years back. They decided there was a bit of a conflict with scheduling and such. They had a
Okay.
hole on Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon is not a time I can run active programming because I'd have to pay my staff double time. And they really wanted to take it on.
I remember
so-
you had it, then the Board of Ed had it, and then so now.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
back to the
it's
Board of
it's
Ed.
with the Board of Ed, and yeah, we used to have the Monday, Wednesday
I remember.
skating lessons in the
Correct.
Tuesday club.
Right. Okay.
And
So
we're
that-
not.
all of that lies with the Board of Ed now.
We're pretty much out of the rank at this
Alright.
point.
Are you okay with that? I guess that's an open-ended question. I just know that it used to be under
I've had
Park
enough.
and Rec.
I've had some very productive things to focus my energy on, and
Okay.
so I've done that, and
Okay. All right. That's a fair answer. Because you know where my passion lies.
yes, I do.
So, all right. I guess we will talk to the Board of Ed about that. Thank you very much. But thank you for all you do. You really do an amazing job. You have a lot on your plate. And I really, I have to say that you do a great job with all of that you have to do, you and your team.
Thanks, I appreciate it. It's a blessing for me to have grown up
That's nice
here
to hear.
and basically now have staff who are doing things, exactly the way that I would do them and we had done them in the past.
Right.
But staying up to date and at the same time freeing up some of my time and energy to worry more about like beach erosion and the marshes and getting osprey platforms in and the sort of value added stuff for your community.
Right. Now, you've been with us for a long time, and we do appreciate all that you do. Thank you very much. All set.
Councilwoman Tucker?
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? The question I have is about, I see that the concerts and bands were added to the budget.
Yeah.
What are the plans that you foresee with that being added to the budget? Because it looks like it's a new.
It was a shift. I believe it was money's taken out of the human resources budget. It was in the rec department's budget years back, and when Beth came over to here, it was switched to the human resources budget. And I think the appropriate place for it is in recreation. And the last concert cycle. Brian Hayden, one of my program coordinators, has been handling all the contracting, and he really has a knack for it and a feel for it. So he was sort of handling it and then operating out of a different department's budget. And so the consensus was to move it back to where I believe it belongs.
Okay. I mean, you know that's been a big, topic for us, and we've talked about this, I think you remember, where, there were concerts that were offered on the beach. And I'm just trying to envision whether or not you're anticipating concerts being given more frequently, or what your thoughts are about this and what you're planning.
The increase in the budget for concerts really just reflects the fact that we hadn't funded it well for quite a while, and we quite frankly weren't able to get really good acts that draw people. And when you have a concert series, you don't want to show up week after week to have like 100 people there, So the idea was that, everything's gone up and we just need a little more money to hire like more quality acts. And so we've stuck with some of the traditional bands that are local and solid and people do want to see. And then we're trying to spend a tick more money on the other shows to just sort of improve the quality of the concert.
Okay. And does this include, the police and all the other?
This is just
strictly the
bands and the and the audio equipment.
Okay. And then the other question I have is about fireworks. Do you guys have anything to do with the fireworks?
We do not.
You do not.
That's a completely independent committee that works with. We permit it for them because they're on city property, but that's more a function of the Savin Rock Committee raising money and getting together with both the state and local fire marshals and stuff. There's an awful lot to it.
Okay.
I'm
And then
not disappointed I'm not directly involved in that.
And how about the festivals that go on? Are you involved in those in any way?
To a degree, our department participates in the festivals and supervises the concerts, but traditionally the Savin Rock Festival had always had a independent committee that ran that ship, and at certain times the numbers went up and down, and the city's always kind of pitched in to the degree that they've needed to run a good event, and if they need us for anything, they know where to find us.
So these are all independent committees that do these like all
Well,
these
they
things.
were in the past. I can't really speak to
Okay.
how it's being done now because
Yep.
I'm not in actively.
That's fine. That's fine.
On the, sorry, Councilwoman, there, in the human resources budget that we're gonna go over on Tuesday, there's the Savin Rock Festival, the holiday festivities, the Veterans Memorial Day
Okay.
Parade. That's where it all gets captured.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
I didn't have
Councilman.
that one.
Councilman Varga?
Thank you, Mark, John. Thank you for both for coming. Just want to start off by just thanking you for everything that you do. I already complimented John enough yesterday, so I'm going to focus on Mark. You know things that I don't think any other human being on this planet knows. You are just a wealth of information, and your passion for this city and the programs and the kids just it exudes out of you. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Product of your community.
Yes, thank you. I want to start off with the revenue line item. It's quite a big jump, and I think my guess is that what you're trying to do is just have it be in line with what your 3-year average is to make it more realistic and try to offset the budget.
So yeah, this is a revenue.
Yeah.
You're talking
Yes.
towards. Yeah. So I feel as if we have money that's budgeted that goes directly to the general public for the good of the public, and then we also directly spend money on activities that someone gets a very solid individual experience from, and it's great that the community can offer that, but I don't think that every single person who lives in West Haven should necessarily pay for your kid to go to camp. So we have to recoup money through fees to just kind of keep it fair, right? And again, when we do it, it's very, very cost effective. You're going to go to our camp for 2 weeks, less than it's going to cost you to go to the YMCA's camp for a week. So given the amount of, the increase in salary over the last number of years, I just feel responsible to try to assist in the generation of some revenue towards the town. I don't want to be the black hole department of the city, and everything costs money, and we spend money well so that people have good quality of life experiences. But again, the things that are specific to individuals at times need to be paid for more by the individual and less by the community. So that's where, you know, I had conversations directly with the mayor about this, and she told me to go easy. So I'm feeling as if maybe 375 was a bit
Optimistic.
optimistic. Yeah. So I'm basically gonna.
But you're essentially doubling what it was in FY25.
So we're still looking to it as to where all the revenue goes and how it's sort of accounted for. We have recreation software, and I'm not sure that was money that was programmatic money for the things like the camps and the lessons and such that we talk about, and also picnics and stuff like that. So that's just something that.
Councilman, I don't think we're necessarily doubling. There's a lot of things with the Park and Rec are coming up here, right? So there's a lot of fees that you would collect. You can't just straight line that number, divide by 6, and multiply by 12.
Right.
I think there's a lot of camps and activities coming up before the end of the budget that's going to boost that 150 that you're looking at, I think.
Well, I can tell you that you've taken a lot of my money for the things that you've offered, because my son absolutely loves your programs.
That's great. That's good. Yeah, they do.
So yeah, in terms of, you know, in terms of projections, we haven't had our camp registrations yet. So, you know, and that's also, if you look at something like our equipment and supplies, we have to purchase some stuff seasonally, but we really hoard the money till we get to the end of the year to make sure that we use up all the old stuff first and recycle all of our stock, and before we buy new paint, new glue, and new playground equipment and such. So we're a very cyclical department, both in terms of the way we are active with the activities, but also as well as our operations in terms of ordering. And we just have these heavy patches, throughout, and coming into this time of year, it's the biggest, biggest expense for both equipment and supplies, parks.
Right. Before I move on to the expenses, I don't know if this is a question that you can answer. Perhaps Mr. Gorman can. In the backup where it says FY22, 23, and 24 actuals, those are not the budget numbers. Those are the actual receipts for those fiscal years. So we can look back. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I just need to figure out exactly what that
included.
is.
Okay.
I know it's not beach parking.
Right. On the band concerts, just curious, how do you feel that they went last year, and is there an opportunity to perhaps use that as a revenue driver? What I'm thinking of is maybe food trucks that pay permits, give the folks, the attendees, options for dinners, an opportunity to do that.
They've tried it off and on. It's a lot of work. I don't know that there's all that much. Certainly something that could be looked at would maybe be permits for a few vendors that they could utilize in certain areas over the course of the season. I'm not quite sure how you do that, if it would be every event, or if you would basically set up some way to permit it for the season.
Right.
And then we always have to be careful with the no commerce in the rec areas. So we could basically have a food truck on Palace Street, and we can't have one 30 feet away in the lot on Oak Street.
Right.
And that's just the code. So, but
Okay.
it's,
The under day camp line 51080 recreation aids, it's been zeroed out. How is that being absorbed?
So that is a defunct line that I think it's only showing because some money actually hit it. So for some reason there was a snafu with the payroll, and but that line item was zeroed out a number of years back and put into the temporary payroll. After I left, the program coordinator for the camp just decided to lump all of the camp salary under one line item. And unfortunately, we had some issues where we periodically had someone's payroll hitting that. That's the 581 you see. So it should have come out of.
Is that the line below it?
Actually, it probably should have come out of 2050 51080 because It's there's a sister number up at the top of the budget for rec aids,
Gotcha.
and I just kind of wish it would go away, but I don't know how to turn it off.
I think that's probably an area where Mike's people do a journal entry to correct it.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw that it was there was activity over the last few years, and then all of a sudden zero. It just caught my eye. I wanted to know what that was. And then last, if we can jump to page 127 of the budget, which is the 5-year plan for your department.
Yeah.
Can you just talk very briefly about what the plan is for the anticipated bonding in fiscal year 26?
So the sand management and the coastal resiliency, it's put under parks because it's the beaches, but it's actually going to be public works and engineering that go through that. And,
Okay.
And put it together and bid it out.
So both of these
they
will
were
be
my
more for-
strongs. Yeah, the sand management plan I've been strongly suggesting for a number of years.
Mhm.
We've taken some great strides recently towards those ends, but I won't be directly steering the ship on those 5-year capitals.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Garthwaite. You're welcome.
Hi, Mark. Hi, John.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Couple little tiny questions. Your line item 54320, payments to outside agencies. It hasn't. Nothing's hit that yet. Do you expect that anything will hit that line item?
Yeah, let me just pull it up to make sure I have the right one. What was the number? 54320. Oh, that's youth. I'm sorry. That's youth athletic funding. That's expended
Okay.
already. We send out applications to all the youth athletic leagues in the end of January, and the leagues that fill out all the paperwork and return it to us, we vet, and then we take that 11.2 and we divide it by the number of leagues who have applied, and we cut a check and we mail it out to them. That's what I was in that direct payment to youth.
Okay.
athletic
And when does
money.
that happen usually?
So it just happened. The checks went out about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so that's why it's not.
Yeah. So listen, that's a great point though. If anybody wants, we keep a spreadsheet on every line item in the budget, whether it's a payroll line item or it's an expenditure line item. So if anybody wants a current number on anything, call the office and we pull up the spreadsheet.
Okay, thank you. Then I have a question about the rink. So it hasn't been paid yet. When does that get paid?
So that check is probably in the batch run.
May or June. Okay.
We actually requisitioned that money last week, Melly.
Okay. Okay, good.
Kevin Blake is running youth hockey now. So
Okay. And then I have one last question. It's on the fees line, number 52750. There's not it doesn't look like there's a lot of use on that 5270.
So there's two different lines.
Yep.
Councilwoman, there's
Yep.
there's one for 4,000, and then
That
in the
one.
day camp there's one.
So, for instance, yeah, that's another one that hasn't hit. We're using Winkle Bus, and we're taking kids all over to state parks all over the place on the April vacation this week.
Okay.
So that's
So not yet. That's why it's 0.
yeah. So like I said, it's a very seasonal and cyclical kind of thing.
Okay.
And we have our up and down periods, but
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Melton.
Hi, Mark. I don't know if you remember me, but we worked together a number of years ago on a few coastal resiliency issues
yeah,
down on the shoreline.
I recognize you.
Asked for some grants, which we never got.
We're doing okay. We're really doing okay along the water and with
Yeah.
our marshes especially.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to follow up on that though, because I want to thank Councilman Vargo for asking my questions, because and getting
Believe it or not, it's what I do.
I know, and no,
Just like to follow all the questions.
I'm sad to hear that. Well, could you clarify what your role will continue to be with sand management and coastal resiliency, because
So
we hate to lose you in that arena.
yeah,
We're-
so I was involved with the recent moving of the sand, the bit of sand we were able to. And I really am looking forward to working hand in hand with Public Works. First, a group of engineers to develop the sand management plan, and then with Public Works, because I see things on the beaches that the superintendents may or may not. And I love to, you know me, I got an answer for your question. I'm going to share it with you, and I'm going to explain how it works. So, yeah, we like in terms of the sand management, you know, we just kind of have sand that washes away over time. And we, number one, have a limited number of critical areas where the sand washes out as soon as we put it in. And we need to address those areas in other ways than dumping sand that washes away, because it creates issues in other areas, like in front of tide gates and at the mouths of creeks. So we also have, you know, a perfect example right now of a scalloped shoreline where we have jetties that have, if you look on the west end of the jetty, there's no sand, and on the east end of the jetty, the sand builds up. And basically, some of that has to do with the fetch and the orientation to the wind and the waves and such, but a lot of it has to do with the type of jetty that's there. So we need to sit down with engineers and, in the meantime, you know, and figure out how we can amend some of these structures and situations at the beach, whether it's going to be using reef balls and living reef constructions and things like that. But in the meantime, let's take that sand from the east side of that jetty and move it back to the west side of the jetty next to it and straighten the beach out so it doesn't get to the point where it washes around. And like the East Avenue Pier is the best example of that now. Washington Avenue Pier, the sand is almost up at the road, and then it just goes diagonally across. So we're looking to right now control, or sort of start to facilitate with the things where we control our destiny. We can do a limited amount of work under our current permit that allows us to use the beachcomber and such. But to do some of the more whole-scale things, we're going to need to go to the state. And if we go to the state with a sand management plan, we stand a much better chance of being well heard.
So that was part of my question, was how much are you doing outside of the bonding, and is that budgeted anywhere, or is it, or where's that money coming from?
So there was some money that was appropriated through the 5-year capital. It's in there now.
Oh, okay.
The Public Works has been doing work.
So it's through Public Works.
They're probably working out of it, and beyond that, I would say the money that was spent was probably, you know, by the engineering department if it wasn't Public Works.
And in your realm, when you're, you know, overseeing Parks and Rec, what do you consider, for example, one of the questions I think that might be coming before you soon is the Sandy Point area and the bird sanctuary. How much of that are you managing, and is there an opportunity to codify that a little bit more?
So it's
as a park.
Just
a question I have.
We've looked at basically creating a sanctuary, a special designation. We went through this back and forth. We consulted with everybody, Audubon heavily, because we rely on Audubon for a lot of advice and a lot of monitoring and some of the other responsibilities that would lie on us if they didn't do them. And I think the general consensus was to just leave it be as Sandy Point, you know, important bird area.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. Sandy Point Bird Sanctuary.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I was just wondering.
So and these are the, you know, I just want it to be a really nice natural space where people come and enjoy nature. Like.
No, I mean I'm seeking information here because I didn't know whether you manage that as in any way.
So as far as the city goes, it's another beach.
It's another beach.
Yeah, and we can't take the comber out there because of the you know, both the terrain as well as the nesting seasons and things. It's a beautiful space. It's very, very natural. The residents have been actively engaged to the point where most of these things wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the people in the neighborhood who basically took charge. And, you know, I encouraged them. It was, you know, started out with a $1,500 grant to Audubon for a butterfly garden when I was in Public Works, and look what's going on down there now. And the Audubon is sponsoring wildlife guards down there in the summer. Our kids are getting hired They're getting paid by Audubon. Audubon's even paying for the Social Security contribution because we run them through our payroll. And they're teaching the kids about the environment. They're doing, have the kids doing active outreach with the people there. And I have to tell you, when a high school student comes up and approaches the public, they're generally a lot better received than the big ugly guy who's probably going to tell me I'm doing something wrong or I can't be here.
Well, thanks. I just, I think what Councilman Vargas said is so true. You've got such a breadth of information and experience, and I think we should.
I appreciate it. I grew up here in the water, in the marshes, on the beach, in the parks, was in all the leagues, and it's just,
Great. Thank
and
you.
as far as Sandy Point goes, it's just the most lovely place, and I just want everyone to just go and really experience it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
Protect it.
I will agree with that.
it is, though. I mean, to a degree, it is highly protected during the most sensitive of seasons. So, and we're always working towards things like, if we could get a closure of horseshoe crab harvesting, we would certainly be all for it. So, it'll be okay. We got plenty of really vested, good people involved. So
Great.
it'll all work out.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, gentlemen. Mark, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I don't have any questions. I got more comments and more. I don't want your head to get too big up here, but doing a fantastic job.
Thanks.
Working with you on that shoreline restoration, I am so glad that you got involved. As you and I know, in the beginning, it started off a little rocky road over the thing, but over time, it's going to be beautiful. Another beautiful space, and it's going to take a few years, as we know, but little at a time. And like everybody's saying, your knowledge it's just mind blowing. It's like to me, you could say anything, and I'm going to be, wow, that's great. You could be lying to my face. I wouldn't know it, but I know you, and I know you wouldn't do that. But it's just amazing how the information you have, and I'm very impressed with it, and very impressed with the progress that we are, even though it is a snail's pace, the progress that is going on down there, and hopefully it'll start moving very shortly.
We're looking, as soon as we get the funding, we're ready to
Right.
go. And
Absolutely.
I think we're about to rebid it because I think the state's about ready to release the money to us. So
That's good.
again, that's another project, if anyone isn't aware, but down at Old Grove Park, Parcel I, the area that was cleared down the beach, it's an acre and a half, and we've had a number of local people, Marilyn Wilkes, with the
Land trust.
Land Trust, thank you. Anyway, local proactive stakeholders get together. I have to deal with the public when I'm planning and doing things for the public. How am I supposed to meet their needs if I don't know firsthand exactly what they are? And it's dangerous at times to get a group of locals together to have these discussions. But I'm committed to doing it and being the referee if I need to, because we need the input from everyone. We have a lot of energized people, and I'm getting more out of this project than if I simply hired a designer or a consultant to come up with it, because more people that know the local lay of the land and the specific things that other people that I don't have contact value, and at the end of the day, we're going to have a project that's absolutely beautiful. It's going to be aesthetically pleasing. It's going to have a huge educational concept. It's going to be environmentally very, very sound. And we're going to have a bunch of locals who absolutely see themselves as a part of the solution here. Firsthand experience that made a significant difference in their community, and there's no greater gift that I can give to the public than to engage them like that so that they and everyone else around them can enjoy. And that's where it comes from.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set.
You're welcome. Councilman Johnstone?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gentlemen, good to see you. John, long time no see. I have two questions. The first one, in terms of revenue,
Yeah.
what are we charging for permitting of use of our facilities to outsiders? How has that revenue stream been going the past couple of years?
It hasn't really been that productive, and I'll tell you why. We charge the locals, like some of the local agencies and schools, to just recoup costs that we experience for overtime, because we're maintaining the facility and such anyway, but we can't take the cost of the overtime, so we basically charge them a fee based on our overtime cost. And again, because of some affiliation that they have with the town. But then when we go and we try to do something like set up a 6-game schedule for a semi-pro football team at Veterans, we generally get beat out of the money. We don't even let them play anymore unless they pay us up front and like the check clears. I think it's potentially a great application, but I don't know that we necessarily are we're not bringing in like the weekends of the CIAC tournaments, for instance. You can get an awful lot of people to come in and have a big buzz and stuff like that. But when you have a agency showing, or a team shows up and they have about 50 people with them, and so they can't really pay the fee, and at the same time, what is it really doing for the city if a group's coming in and using our field, but they're not really bringing in anyone to experience the fullness of the city of West Haven? I would like to see if we could find events where we could rent the facility out and at the same time bring in a crowd that might be apt to stop at Outback or anywhere, Stowe's, the new Riva, That's why I had always thought, like, we were looking to put another softball field down at Worley, because we're probably going to lose the softball fields at Kerrigan when the new school is constructed, if it gets constructed. But we looked at it where, if we had 2 fields down there, not only would it meet the majority of our adult softball needs, but we could have tournaments down there on the weekends, and then that would involve an awful lot. If you know anything about the young males who play softball, they love to go to tournaments, and then when they go to tournaments, they stay in hotels, and they love to eat a lot of food, and they love to drink a lot of beer. So they're great groups to bring into a facility. So I think that's something that we really do need to explore, but we haven't really found any kind of magic bullet with that yet.
Okay. And then the other question I have is, I remember asking this, I think it was 2 years ago, and the response I got was, which is fine, it was our beach constables.
Yes.
The theory was we keep them on to help implement the new parking.
Yep.
So now that the new parking meters are in, we're charging.
Yep.
What are they doing?
So last year we scaled them back to just the Oak Street area. They weren't in any of the other lots. The first year we had them out sort of as ambassadors with the new system. Last year we focused them at Oak Street, Alschuler, that Palace Street area, and it was only a small handful of them, and the rest of them were redirected into park area roles. So now, instead of having someone sitting down at Dawson Avenue Beach checking a sticker, I have someone up at Painter Park from 5 p.m. till dusk to basically clean up a little bit, make sure there's soap and paper in the bathrooms, lock the gates, and I have a presence in the parks now. And because we have a presence in the parks, we're getting a lot less mischief, nonsense, and vandalism. So I've been redirecting the money purposefully towards other park areas. We're not really looking to put any constables down at a beach lot. However, that was a job that I was able to put a lot of special needs people in, and we have a couple of special needs people who are still on the roster, and I don't see me taking that away from them. So if I can't find something to do, you may find 1 or 2 of our special needs constables still down around the beach, and they're timing out because none of them are young anymore.
Okay, and I appreciate that, because I know there's been some confusion over the years, and I think we might want to look, this is just my opinion, we might want to look into changing beach to something else, because people are still, with the new system, it's, well, then what are they doing at the beach if the system's in place?
Simply call them parks constables.
There you go. Because to your point, what you're telling us is you moved them to an area where you had a need. Right, it's what you've been kind of telling us. You're doing the Harlem Shuffle to fill the gaps to fulfill your duties.
Yeah, and
okay.
Again, it's there's the justification page for that line item, so you could see where I've been putting.
No,
them.
that's okay. No, I just want a clarification of if
Yeah.
Are they still at the beach or are we using them elsewhere? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate that.
And so it's been great because now Painter Park, for instance, I was able to keep the bathrooms open almost through like Thanksgiving last year, all the way through Halloween into November with until the weather just cooled off and we didn't have families in the park anymore. And again, it's like, the guy who's there in the evening cleaning up and taking care of all that, he's worth his weight in gold for
Right.
the minimum wage he's getting paid.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Melton?
Special Olympics, is that your area?
It's not, but we love accommodating them. They came in last year, and we got the bocce courts all in order for them. And
So does the city do anything to sort of capitalize on having the Special Olympics here in terms of, accommodations, restaurants, you do the parks? That's not
yeah.
Parks and
Well,
Rec.
so and that was always something that I had thought, regardless of whether it was the fields or whatever it is that you're doing, our tournaments would be someone in economic development getting together with some of the local businesses and creating some sort of, like I always thought too with the parking system, if you had situations where, suppose there was a tournament and, well, we're going to get them to pay to park, but we're going to give them a code so they get a little bit of money off it, but they're still going to pay to park down there. And they feel like, hey, I'm getting a break. That guy paid $20 and I got my tournament code. And I just think it would really benefit a lot of the restaurants and especially to sort of collaborate like that.
So that's a sort of a potential revenue.
Yeah, I just often wondered,
but
even with
from
like,
another, maybe a different department, economic development.
I had always wondered if it wouldn't make sense to just take a look at, like, especially now that we have the parking down there. It's like, how many cars are we getting in what lots, what day of the week, what time of the day, where are they coming from? I think some of our business people could really utilize that data. I don't know, I'm not a business guy, but I would think they could.
Thank you.
Councilman Tucker?
Yep. I do have another question. Every year for the last several years, there's the group, the West Haven Old School Reunion, which are graduates of West Haven High School that have been members of the community years and years and years, celebrate at the lower part of Painter Park.
Painter Park, okay.
But I don't believe they were able to have the celebration there last year. Can you?
No, they were. They came in and there was a little bit of confusion with the person who took care of them at the counter. When I got back to the office, they explained what was going on. And I said, gee, it sounds like Mr. Lewis's group. I'm not sure. And so people came back and we smoothed it all over and they had their event and I apologized. I have a couple of newer staff and they don't know the whole history of things. And, we wouldn't, under the current permitting regulations, we really wouldn't permit to a group like that just walked in off the street, but we're going to take care of people that have lived in the community for a long time, especially when they're community people that want to assemble together. That's what we're here for. So I'm sorry that is the day that I'm going to be the guy that signs the permit and says, have your event.
Yeah, because it's been an ongoing event for
a
years.
long time. Yeah,
and
for as
just
long
the
as I can
shock to the
remember.
community.
Yeah.
Hearing that they were no longer welcome to be able to have the event
and they
there
did.
last year was a significant
And we've turned
change.
We've turned a couple of blind. We kind of let them bend a lot of the rules when it comes to the what they can bring in for equipment and things like that.
Right. So, but they've been doing that ever since
Right. Yeah,
the inception. So, if the
no, and it's never been a problem. That's a group that leaves the park cleaner than they found it when they leave. We love to have them. We love to have the community assemble, and they're not going to have an issue.
Okay.
So, and again, I apologize directly to them when they came to the office. It was just an honest mistake, someone trying to do their job. And
I appreciate hearing that, and thank you. And I do hear the passion that you have about the beach and the work that you're doing, in the community. So I applaud your passion for that. And I just hope that can extend, into the other parts of the community, and maybe we can get kids, interested in volunteering, to do some of that work to make sure that they're, understanding about the impact that they can have on the community and the beaches going forward. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Mark, I just wanted to say, because I forgot to tell you, that I appreciate you. You have made a complete difference for not just my neighborhood, but also all along the boardwalk. And I know that, everyone within my little group appreciates you, as well as the restoration group. And I just don't know what we would do without you when we need information that we can't get anywhere else.
So when you guys keep me coming back to work every day, I don't know what I would do without you guys. It's a real blessing to be able to come to work to do something that is rewarding to you with a lot of really, really wonderful people from the community.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Any other questions? Mark, I wanted to thank you as well. My twin brother and I have been part of the Parks and Rec community for a very long time in our youth, and my kids are now, and I really appreciate all that you do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We love it.
Did you have anything else to add? All set? Yep, you're all set? Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you. That concludes our meeting for today. We will have a recess and reconvene tomorrow, Wednesday, April 16th at 6 p.m.